So I'm Robert Scoble, and I'm here at the headquarters of OpenTable, and I'm here because I've been playing with this new app called Siri, S-I-R-I, and it's transformed how I find restaurants and make reservations for things. So I wanted to talk to the people at OpenTable and find out how the mobile world is changing the world of finding restaurants. So who are you?
I'm Scott Jampol, a Senior Director of Consumer Marketing for OpenTable.
Yeah.
And I'm focused on getting people to use their phones and their computers to make online restaurant reservations.
And so what's been happening in your world, and how, it's clear that something's happening because I'm playing with Siri and I'm using OpenTable's app on the iPhone now to reserve, make reservations for people. I mean, just last night we were out to dinner,
Yeah.
or we were here in San Francisco and with a bunch of new people that were in the town, and it's like, well, what should we eat? I don't know. Oh, what about sushi? Oh, yeah. And we start, looking for great sushi places nearby, and then, oh, do they have any tables? Let's go to OpenTable.
Yeah.
So
tell
me what you're seeing happen from your point of view.
Sure. Well, we believe mobile is really important to the way that people make restaurant reservations, and we've been in mobile for about 2 years. We launched a website about 2 years ago, and since then we've launched on six individual apps on different platforms. It creates usage occasions, so when you're away from your computer and you like to use OpenTable to make online reservations, now you can pull out your phone. Instead of making phone calls and hunting for that available reservation, you can quite simply just press a button to see what's around you and what's available, and you can filter by cuisine or neighborhood or distance from your current location. So lots of fun applications of the kind of new smartphone technology that allow people to really easily make restaurant reservations.
Yeah. We should say we're here on the corner, right across the street from the Apple Store, basically on Market Street, and it's a little bit noisy up here.
It is, yeah. We look out at the lines out there quite often from our offices, but
very cool.
Yeah.
You also just came out with an iPad app, right? And tell me about what are you learning from that world? Because that app just shipped. You
Sure.
just shipped the iPad app, and what do you see happen there?
Well, it's early. I mean, there's three main use cases that I can think of with our apps. One is that someone knows where they want to dine. They're looking for a specific restaurant by name. Yeah. Two, they are going to a neighborhood or a location and they want to search by that neighborhood or location. Or three, they want to browse what's around them and discover new places. And our iPhone app has done that for a while. Almost 2 years now since we released that. But coming out with the iPad app, a device that really is creating a new space for mobile devices, we didn't really, we're still finding out how people are using that versus how they're using our iPhone app or our Android app or a Palm app. So we're really just in the discovery phase of that. Our app does have a much more map-centric view than our iPhone app. It takes advantage of the bigger screen, so a lot larger photos. Other new features that I think are kind of our thoughts about what an iPad would be like for making restaurant reservations, but we're collecting feedback all the time right now. So yeah. It's fun. It's a fun device. So
it's really interesting talking to you because a lot of apps are using your API, and you're like in the center of San Francisco, which is not just metaphorical because Yelp is right down the corner, on the other corner basically of your block, and Food Spotting is here, and those are two apps that I use to find restaurants, mm-hmm. and then to make reservations. And
we've had a limited number of folks that that are using our API right now, but we have a broad network of affiliate partners that use our links that we've been able to link to our reservation pages from their apps. And our goal is where people are discovering restaurants, we want to be the call to action right on those types of sites. So great communities of foodies and people that are dining out a lot that are on someone else's site or on someone else's app. We think we can add a lot of value by being on those pages as a partner that provides restaurant reservations versus just listing a phone number, which may or may not be what the user wants to do.
Yeah.
So.
Tell me what OpenTable really does behind the scenes, because people who use Yelp or use OpenTable or use Siri, we don't really understand what you guys do and how you get the reservations into the restaurant.
Sure. So most of the restaurants that have installed OpenTable in their restaurant have replaced the pen and paper book that sits at the host stand. with the host or hostess with an OpenTable hardware and software package. That gives the ability for the restaurant to do not only track all of their restaurant reservations, whether they're by phone or online or for walk-ins and such, but it also gives them a guest management database and other kind of table management tools that help their operation really run smoothly. In addition to that, the side most people know about as diners is they can use OpenTable.com to search for availability in real time. That connects with that terminal that's in the restaurant. They can go to the restaurant's website in most cases and connect into the OpenTable system through that. So you've got two sides to the story: the diners facing side, which is around availability and booking restaurant reservations, and the restaurant side where they're using it for operational benefit as well as the diner acquisition.
And how real time is this? If I'm on OpenTable.com or on the Android or iPad app, and I need a table in 15 minutes, for instance, is it that real time?
It is. It's real-time reservations, right? So the view that our calls are making into their database that's in real time. There's no allocation of inventory at all. So
very cool.
Yeah, it is. So it should reflect accurately their availability.
And this gives you a hint of why the mobile phone is probably changing your business radically, right? We're here in a convention in New York or here in San Francisco. We get out of the convention at 6 p.m. and we go, we want a restaurant right now, and we start using our mobile phones to find out who has tables available.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an exciting part for us, and that's why you've seen us invest a lot in it. It creates new usage occasions. We think it's at least partially incremental. We've noticed some really cool stuff, like on our mobile apps, for example, that the time between when you book the reservation and when the actual reservation is for is much shorter than with our website. And we think that's because it's used a lot more for last minute or day of reservations. We've seen some shifts in the days of the week. So we're starting to understand how people are using mobile versus the computer, and we've asked them in surveys which they prefer. And when they're at work, they prefer to use the computer, but when they're commuting or traveling, they prefer to use mobile. So understanding how our customers want to use both a computer and their mobile devices is really important to us, and we've seen some cool trends that are popping out of that. So.
Yeah. What are you seeing? Can you share with me anything you're learning from doing? Because you guys have Android and iPhone, right? Do you have a BlackBerry?
We have BlackBerry, Android, iPhone, Palm, Nokia, and iPad. So we've got 6 unique ones.
Are you able to share any learnings that you're seeing because you're on so many different platforms? And it's nice to talk to developers who really have an app on everything and see what they're learning from those platforms.
Well, first of all, we've seen some great metrics that matter to us. So we've seeded 3 million diners through our apps in restaurants, which we equate to about $150 million worth of revenue for our partner restaurants. So
how many restaurants use OpenTable?
About 13,000, more than 13,000 across the world now. So a large number of restaurants, but a lot of $150 million worth of value to them is a big deal. And so we've seen it's not like we're playing around anymore. This is a real amount of value being driven to restaurants through mobile, which is great. We've also learned a lot about mobile development in general. I think a couple things that we've noticed that I could pass on. One, we originally started with a website, and the first thought was we need to simplify this as much as possible because it's a small screen. So we took out lots of features, and it was just really bare bones: date, time, party size, and availability. And the first thing our users said was, well, that's great. We love that you're enabling us to use it on the mobile phone, but we want all the features that we're used to as OpenTable users. And so lots of interesting design challenges to how to bring features into the mobile phone. And then the second thing they said was, actually, our phones allow us to do a lot of things that our computer doesn't, so we want a superset of features, right? And so we added some really cool stuff with location-based search and such that have made our mobile products unique products in and of themselves. So whereas we had maybe one product to manage before, now with 6 individual apps, we've got a lot of different products with different feature sets to manage. So it's not an easy task to juggle the development cycles between 6 or 7 products like we have now versus that. 2, I think staffing really well for customer support is important. I think a lot of people forget about that. I always say that it's important for people to that are releasing mobile apps to realize they have to teach people how to use the phone, not just their app. And if the person's not successful installing their app and using it the first time, they're probably not going to try again. And so when you have a lot of folks that are not bleeding edge technology users now buying smartphones, and we do, my mom has a Droid phone, you have to really answer every inquiry that you have. You have to know how to use the phones that you're releasing on, and you have to kind of hold people's hands to get them to use it correctly, and then you get satisfied customers.
Interesting. Are you able to share any percentages? Like, does iPhone have 30% of the users and Android has 40% or anything?
We
like
haven't
that?
released the percentage breakdown. iPhone has been out the longest of all of our apps, so 2 years in November, and so it still is the biggest for us. Followed by Android. And the iPad, which is new, is coming up. So we haven't really released those individual metrics, but we have seen some pockets of adoption on all the platforms, and we're excited about it. We have 800 restaurants or so in the UK, for example, and there's different phone sets in the UK that are relevant. So we have restaurants in Germany, and so we've got a unique German app. So we've thought about the blend of platforms based on geography as well. So.
Interesting. It's really interesting at this time. I mean, I spoke yesterday at the GeoLoco conference, which is seeing a new kind of app come along, like Foursquare and Gowalla and Whirl, which are location-based apps. Mm-hmm. Are you doing any partnerships or thinking about how to use their usage base to get OpenTable integration? Because I could imagine checking in with Foursquare like I do.
Yeah.
I just checked in here, for instance, on Foursquare, and then having, do you need a restaurant nearby, and clicking a button, and then we're off on OpenTable. Are you thinking of anything like that?
Well, the funny part is when you use OpenTable and you show up at the restaurant and you tell them that you're here for your reservation, they check you into the restaurant. Like, that's kind of been the business model, because we've got that closed loop, which is you booked a reservation and you attended it. And so we know that someone is attending and is visiting the restaurant. We're of course open to talking with those, and we've talked with some of the companies that you've mentioned in the past. And I think for us, where there's groups of people that are thinking about where to dine, that's where we want to be. We want to be, everywhere that there's groups of people that are doing that. So we're open to lots of partnerships like that.
Yeah.
So.
What else are you, because you're at the center of the food world, and that's interesting. You're center of San Francisco, and what's happening here in social media and mapping and location. I mean, there's so much happening around your office.
Yeah.
What else is OpenTable seeing, and how do you think you're going to play in the future?
Yeah. Well, I think there's obviously a lot going on, right? I mean, culinary endeavors kind of define a lot of the metros that we work in. So when you think about what's the food scene here, like in San Francisco versus New York, and what's unique, there's always things going on, like restaurant weeks that we're working with, and other kind of tasting menus and other things that are unique. And there's also lots of focus on offers and deals at restaurants, even in upscale restaurants, or learning or testing how they introduce deals. And so we've been working with our restaurants about how we can make some of their deals more visible. And I think that's interesting, because it's good for consumers, because they can have yet another reason to visit a fine dining restaurant. Just in general, finding ways to inspire people to dine out more frequently, especially as recovery is hopefully happening in a lot of metro areas. People are starting to spend again and visit restaurants, and so however we can help promote that and get the word out about unique new restaurants that are opening, unique concepts and everything, we're really focused on that. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what you do. I just found out about a new service today called Open Menu, which is not OpenTable, where all the restaurants that participate can post their menus, and you can see, that restaurant has my favorite shrimp dish, so let's go there. That's an interesting way to impel dining, right? And I love food spotting. I don't know if you've used food spotting, but all around the world now, there's pictures of the food.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And it's awesome. It's an awesome way to impel you to go somewhere new, because that dish looks really cool. and a lot of times they take you to a site or a experience on here, and it has an OpenTable reservation.
Yeah, the evolution of food photography. I mean, for years, food photography has just been awful, especially user-generated food photography. But I think people are learning how to do it better. So
and the cameras are getting a lot better.
They're getting a lot better. Yeah. I mean, the old version of the menu with pictures of the food on it, where you're like, ooh, who wants to eat that? Now you've got dozens of ways to see photos of dishes. It's pretty interesting. So.
One last thing, because a lot of times I'm frustrated, there's not enough restaurants near me that are using OpenTable, so I have to start calling for reservations.
Where do you live?
Well, I travel all over the world,
Okay.
so I mean, it's not just where I live.
Yeah.
I live in Half Moon Bay, and there's only a couple of restaurants, or a handful of restaurants that have OpenTable there. But I travel places, and a lot of times there's just not that many restaurants near me that have OpenTable. So now I have to, oh, I really wanted to go sushi, but they don't have OpenTable. Oh, I got to call them and see.
Yeah.
How are you going to get more of your systems into these restaurants?
Well, you should let me know when you experience that, and I'll get our salespeople on it. I mean, the truth is, right, for us, our business is, the more restaurants we have on our system, the more diners want to come to OpenTable, and vice versa, right? So our goal ultimately is to continue to add restaurants, as many restaurants as we can, so that the value proposition for our diners gets even stronger. And then, we also want to deliver more diners to all the restaurants that are on our network. So we're going to continue to be really focused on that, and hopefully, as time goes on, you'll experience that kind of frustration less and less. But
yeah.
So.
Well, thanks. Any last thing that we should know about what you guys are doing, or what you're experiencing?
Can I help you make dinner reservations for tonight?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Although I already have some because we made them on the way over.
Nice, excellent. Well, I appreciate the time, and it's been fun talking about OpenTable and mobile. So.
Thank you very much.
Good to meet you.